Thing, as your company, TopRank, which we'll get to more specifically in a little bit, have they ever done anything with female boxing? Have you ever covered that, or is there not really a market there?
Yeah, we did it. We
it seemed like it wasn't really
well,
worthwhile.
I mean, there was an era in the '90s, late 90s, on a lot of the Oscar de la Hoya shows. What we would do is we would put on a digression from what was going on. From the normal show. So we'd put a Butterbean on that was, people liked it, was good entertainment. We put on this girl Lucia Riker occasionally, this Playboy playmate Mia St. John, and it was kind of a digression from everything. It never, other than Christy Martin at some point kind of hit a little bit, but it never really took off. I think Layla Ali is a terrific example of a girl who's very good and has done very well by herself, but I don't really see it exploding or having a great dominance in this sport.
Have you heard or directly seen any pressure from feminist or women's rights groups that's saying that female boxing should be covered more and promoted more?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I mean, I don't. There's so few girls out there that really want to get in the ring, and where you see them are in other countries where the girls are mixed martial artists or whatever and want to get into boxing, but I don't see it that much.
Now, it was pretty interesting. I took the University of Chicago this year. I'm a history major. And I took a course actually called Sports and American Culture that studied basically sports throughout the 20th century. And one of the big things was that boxing in the 30s and 40s seemed to be larger than life. For instance, the Joe Louis versus Max Schleming fight. I mean, it was Germany versus America, and even though there was lots of racism in America, all Americans were getting behind Joe Louis, it seemed. Do you think that boxing can ever transcend and become almost larger than life, where you can maybe have a boxer from a hostile Middle East country fighting a boxer from America or something? You can create that drama and create that tension, or is that really more something that happens during the world wars and you can't really see that again?
I would only be speculating, and my feeling on that is I think that there are great rivalries everywhere, but what didn't exist then was the abundance of content. There is so much sports content out there right now that I don't know if we could ever grab the masses like they did years ago. You know, those people were listening to boxing on radios, and right now we have volleyball, we have baseball, basketball, football, you have college sports, you have swimming, you have so many different sports that are coming up and so many different types of events, and I think there's just so much content out there. In England you have darts. I mean, it does very big ratings, you have snooker. So there's just so much content out there that I don't think anything today can absolutely consume the world like it did then.
Now, specifically going to TopRank, the company which you're president of, a boxing promotional company, how many other promotional companies are there? How many are the big ones? Obviously, you're one. How many competitors do you have, and why are you the best?
Well, I think there's probably we've been around the longest. We do more live events than anybody in the world, and we've created the largest talent that is basically common language in everybody's vocabulary for the last 30 years.
Which talent have you had?
Well, from Muhammad Ali, which in the 60s, we did 26 Muhammad Ali fights, 60s and 70s, to Arguello, to Duran, to Leonard, to Hagler, to Hearns, to De La Hoya, to George Foreman and his comeback, to Floyd Mayweather, to more recent guys like Eric Morales and Miguel Cotto. So there's numbers of guys, and a lot of it is the development of it. Knowing how you take a fighter from a very poor beginning, being able to develop him slowly, being able to, so that he can mature and then become a superstar.
Now, you touched upon Oscar de la Hoya. He obviously left you, started his own promotional company. Do you see that as a wave of the future where boxers might squeeze you guys out and starting their own promotional companies, or it might just be too difficult for them?
No, I don't see the ways of the future. I think it's a reality, and it's something that we deal with every day. I think the art of promoting has been basically looked at by certain people as not a skill, and a fighter thinks that if he can fight, he can promote. Well, you didn't get there just by making your own matches and doing it yourself. It's very much an art. I think Oscar became very popular. We signed him in '92 out of the Olympics and had a very good run with him. But as comes with anything in talent and sports, the talent always thinks they're bigger than who helps them out. And the networks will always go with the talent, and they'll help promote whatever their vehicles are.
Did he leave on bad terms, or was?
No, I mean, I think, I think unfortunately with talent in our sport, there's a lack of education with most of the athletes. Therefore, they listen, they're as good as the last person that talks to them. So if somebody says, I can get you $2 and the other guy's only giving you $1.50, they'll listen to anything. And that's kind of difficult. But I listen, we wish him well, and we get, now we've made amends to a certain extent. And, I think his career is, coming down to an end, and he's trying to get his promotional company going because that's really what he sees as his future.
Now, many of Don King, another promotional company, a lot of his former clients say that he ripped them off, didn't give them what they deserved. Is that in fact true? And do you think that maybe creates tension for future boxers because they don't really trust talent or companies like you, and rather they would start up themselves?
I have a tough time believing everything that is always said in the press and what fighters say or athletes say, because there's two sides to the story. People always complain to me about, oh, this guy, took too much of my money, or this guy wasn't paid me correctly. Everyone complains. I'm not to judge that. I know what we do. I know we're very fair with our talent. Unfortunately, there's a situation where the guys, the athletes, are always going to listen to whoever's telling them, that you're getting robbed. Don King is an amazing promoter, all right? His ethics, that's a different story. As a promoter, he is great. He has a great, presence. He has an ability to charm people. He has an ability to get attention, His way of working is a lot different than our way of working. When he goes into a promotion, it's about Don King. When I go into a promotion, it's about my talent. No one is going to buy my event because of me, right? I got to make the talent as big as possible. Therefore, I create the monsters, where guys want to leave you and they become so popular that they think they did everything.
Now, for clients like yours, for instance, when a boxer fights, what percentage of the revenue do they usually get?
It all varies. It all varies. I mean,
for the top talent, let's say.
It's all negotiated. Of what? Gross revenue, net revenue. I mean, it's all a function of, a negotiation. We have, for some reason, the Muhammad Ali bill was instituted a couple of years ago, which basically, as a way to put checks and balances into our business model, so where we have to disclose all the revenue to the athletes, so they don't think that we're getting more revenue than they're signing on for, and so it's relatively very, very transparent now, and I think it was relatively transparent then. People don't realize the risk that you take in an event, and they don't understand if your return on money is like, oh wow, that's crazy. How would you shouldn't be entitled to that. But what happens if we go to war that night and no one is going to watch pay-per-view and they're going to watch CNN? You're still on the hook for $25 million in purses.
Right. That's a good point.
No one guarantees me that everyone's going to put it on and watch pay-per-view that night. Something could happen, and you got to be careful with that.
Has there been any governmental pressure, any outside pressure to look out more for these fighters when they get up in their late 30s, early 40s? Maybe you should quit it before they get a little too punchy. For instance, in a previous show with my friend Jake Landsberg, we had Evander Holyfield here, and I mean, you could see the repercussions of maybe fighting a little bit too long. Has there been any pressure? Do you feel any moral pressure to make sure that the fighters don't fight too long where they can have serious health repercussions?
Personally, I have some moral issues about if there's a fighter that I don't feel should be fighting anymore, and I'll express that to them. It becomes a very tricky thing between telling them, listen, you're finished, it's over with, and them saying, well, listen, I want one more fight. And there's that emotional attachment you have to them when you develop somebody for a long period of time. I think one of the things we don't look at in all of sports is what the athletes are doing outside of their sport. If you talk to top neurologists all over the world, the use of alcohol, the use of tobacco, the use of drugs will create more problems with your brain than even getting punched in the head or taking a hit in an NFL game or when getting concussed. And those things are what is depreciably getting those responses that you see from an individual that could also say, I think he's slurring a little bit. Combine that with getting punched in the head, you got some problems.